Winter came down from the Bitterroot Mountains like something alive. It moved through the high passes in long white sheets, buried the wagon road, and pressed against the windows of the Bell Ranch until the glass trembled in its frame. Snow gathered along the roof in heavy ridges. The pines bent beneath it. Even the creek, which usually spoke all night over stones, fell silent under a skin of ice. Elias Bell had lived through 14 Montana winters, and he trusted none of them. Each morning, before the pale light reached the valley floor, he broke ice in the horse trough with the back of an axe. He carried hay to the barn, checked the cattle along the south fence, and returned with snow crusted to his coat. His beard froze around his mouth. His fingers ached, even inside lined gloves. He never complained. Complaining did not mend fences or feed animals. Inside the ranch house, his 8-year-old daughter sat alone at the kitchen table. Clara had her mother's dark eyes and her father's habit of silence. Most mornings, she copied words from an old primer, while Elias stirred oats over the stove. She formed each letter carefully, though no one had taught her how to hold the pencil properly. Elias knew cattle. He knew horses, weather, timber, and the dangerous sound river ice made before it broke. He did not know how to teach a child. The nearest schoolhouse stood 12 miles away in Dry Creek. During summer, Clara sometimes rode there with a neighboring family. In winter, the road disappeared beneath drifts, deep enough to swallow a wagon wheel. For 2 years, Elias had told himself he could manage. He had shown Clara how to count sacks of grain. He taught her to read names from seed catalogs and bills of sale. At night, she sounded out verses from the family Bible, while he sat near the stove repairing harness. But there were questions he could not answer. Why did some words sound different from the way they looked? Where did the ocean end? How could a person know whether the moon moved or the earth beneath it? Elias usually stared into the fire before saying, "We'll look it up." They rarely did. On the coldest morning of December, a rider came through the north pasture, carrying a leather mailbag across his saddle. The man's face was wrapped in wool. His horse breathed clouds into the air. He handed Elias a letter bearing the seal of the Territorial Education Office. Weeks earlier, without telling Clara, Elias had answered a notice printed in the Dry Creek Gazette. The notice offered temporary winter employment to qualified teachers willing to stay with isolated ranch families. Elias had expected no reply. He opened the envelope beside the barn. A teacher had accepted. Her name was Anna Whitaker. She would arrive on the Friday stage. By Friday afternoon, the road into Dry Creek was nearly gone. Elias left Clara with their nearest neighbor and rode out before noon, leading a second horse behind him. Snow struck his face all the way to town. The stagecoach arrived 3 hours late. It appeared through the storm as a dark shape, surrounded by blowing white. The driver hunched beneath a buffalo coat. Ice clung to the spokes. Only one passenger stepped down. Anna Whitaker wore a brown wool coat that reached her ankles. She carried a square traveling case in one hand and a wooden box of books in the other. She looked younger than Elias had expected, though not delicate. Her hair was pinned beneath a plain felt hat, and her cheeks were red from the cold. She studied the empty street, then the tall man waiting beside 2 horses. "Mr. Bell?" "Yes. I'm Anna Whitaker." He touched the brim of his hat. Her gaze moved to the horses. "I was told there would be a wagon. Roads too deep." She looked at the snow blowing sideways between the buildings. "How far is the ranch?" 11 miles. Anna tightened her grip on the book box. Elias took it from her. "I can carry that," she said. "I know." He strapped the box behind his saddle. Anna had ridden before, though not recently. Elias could tell from the way she approached the horse without fear, but hesitated before placing her boot in the stirrup. The journey took nearly 2 hours. They spoke only when necessary. Elias pointed out a patch of hidden ice. Anna warned him when one of the straps on the traveling case loosened. Once, her horse stumbled in a drift, and Elias reached across to steady the reins. By the time they reached the ranch, darkness had settled over the valley. Clara stood on the porch holding a lantern. She did not wave. Anna climbed stiffly from the saddle and looked toward the child. "You must be Clara." Clara nodded. "I brought you something." From her coat pocket, Anna removed a small paper packet. Inside was a stick of blue chalk. Clara stared at it. "I've never seen blue chalk," she said. "Then we already have something to study tomorrow." Elias carried Anna's case inside. The room prepared for her had belonged to his wife. He had removed the dresses from the wardrobe and placed them in a cedar chest, but little else had changed. A faded quilt covered the bed. A porcelain wash basin stood beneath the window. On the wall hung a pressed sprig of lavender in a wooden frame. Anna paused in the doorway. "This is more than enough." "You'll stay until the thaw," Elias said. "Your pay is half now, half when the road opens." "That was our agreement. There's no doctor nearby. Town can't always be reached." "I understand." Elias looked at her boots, already damp from the ride. "Winter here isn't easy." Anna met his eyes. "I did not come expecting easy." The next morning, she turned one end of the kitchen into a schoolroom. She placed her books in neat rows along a shelf. Elias found an old plank in the barn and planed it smooth for a writing board. Anna mixed lampblack with egg white to make dark paint, then coated the wood until it could take chalk. Clara watched every movement. Their first lesson began after breakfast. Elias tried to remain in the room while repairing a bridle, but Anna's questions made him uneasy. "What is something you want to learn?" she asked Clara. Clara glanced toward her father. "Whatever Papa says." Anna waited. "That was not what I asked." Clara lowered her eyes to the table. After a long silence, she whispered, "I want to read a whole book without stopping." Anna opened the primer. "Then that is where we will begin." Elias carried the bridle to the barn. For the first week, the arrangement remained formal. Anna taught from 9 until noon. After dinner, she gave Clara sums and copywork. Elias stayed outside whenever weather allowed. At meals, Anna spoke politely. Elias answered briefly. Clara watched them both. The ranch house had been quiet for so long that even the sound of another adult moving through it felt strange. Anna's footsteps crossed the floor above the kitchen. Her comb rested beside the wash basin. A second coat hung near the door. Elias found himself noticing these things. He did not welcome the noticing. Anna earned her place through work. When the pump froze, she carried snow inside and melted it on the stove. When Clara tore her mitten, Anna repaired it with thread pulled from the hem of an old apron. She learned where Elias kept the flour, how much wood the stove consumed overnight, and which door needed lifting before the latch would catch. She never entered the barn without asking. She never moved the belongings that had belonged to Clara's mother. On the 9th day, Elias returned from checking cattle and found a cup of coffee waiting near the stove. Anna sat beside Clara, guiding her finger along a printed line. He drank without speaking. The next morning, another cup waited. After that, it became part of the day. Christmas passed beneath heavy snow. Anna cut stars from old newspaper and hung them over the kitchen window. Clara made a chain from scraps of red cloth. Elias brought in a young pine from the edge of the pasture, though he claimed he had cut it because it blocked the fence line. On Christmas morning, Clara found a cloth pouch beneath the tree. Inside were 12 pieces of chalk in different colors. She held them as if they were gemstones. Anna received a pair of lined gloves. Elias had purchased them in Dry Creek before her arrival and kept them hidden in the barn. She looked at him across the room. "They're fine gloves," she said. "Cold gets worse in January." "Thank you." Elias nodded and turned toward the stove. January proved him right. The temperature fell until iron tools burned bare skin. Snow covered the lower windows. Wind pushed smoke back down the chimney. For 6 days, no one left the house except Elias. Anna began teaching Clara geography by drawing maps on the blackboard. She described lakes so large a person could not see the opposite shore. She drew mountain ranges, rivers, coastlines, and cities, with streets wider than the whole settlement of Dry Creek. Clara listened with her mouth slightly open. One evening, Elias stood behind them longer than he intended. Anna noticed. "Can you point to Montana?" she asked. Clara touched the map. "And where are we?" Clara placed one small finger in the western part of the territory. Anna looked toward Elias. "Your father knows this valley better than any mapmaker." Clara smiled at him. For the first time, Elias sat at the table during the lesson. As the weeks passed, the three of them settled into a rhythm. Elias rose first and built the fire. Anna prepared biscuits while he worked outside. Clara read aloud after supper. Some nights, Anna sewed near the lamp. Elias repaired tack across from her. Between them, Clara slept curled beneath a blanket on the floor, one hand resting on the farm dog's neck. The silences changed. They were no longer empty. In February, a calf was born during a storm. Elias found the animal weak and half buried in snow. He carried it to the barn, his coat soaked through. Anna followed with lanterns and dry cloth. "You should stay inside," he told her. "So should you." The cow stood nervously in the stall, while they rubbed warmth into the calf's legs. Clara watched from the doorway, wrapped in a blanket. For nearly an hour, the calf did not rise. Anna knelt in the straw, holding its head. "Come on," she whispered. At last, the animal moved. Its legs shook beneath it, then straightened. Clara laughed. The sound startled Elias more than the calf's recovery. Anna looked up at him. A strand of hair had fallen across her face. Straw clung to her skirt. Elias smiled before he could stop himself. It was small and gone quickly, but Anna saw it. After that night, Clara began laughing more often. She read her first book from beginning to end. It was a thin story about a sailor and a lost dog. When she finished the final page, she looked toward her father, as though waiting for permission to be proud. Elias placed both hands on the table. "You did well." Clara ran to him. He held her awkwardly at first, then tightly. Over her shoulder, he saw Anna close the book. By early March, sunlight began lingering against the western ridge. Icicles formed along the eaves. The snow sank lower around the fence posts. Water dripped from the barn roof during the warmest hours of the afternoon. The thaw was still weeks away, but its promise had entered the valley. With it came something Elias had tried not to consider. Anna would leave. Her contract ended when the road opened. He found the signed agreement in the desk drawer and read it twice, though he knew every line. 1 winter term, room and board, half payment upon arrival, half payment at completion, no promise beyond spring. That evening, Elias became quiet again. Anna noticed the change, but did not ask about it. 2 days later, a rider arrived from Dry Creek. His name was Charles Mercer, superintendent of the town school. He wore a black coat too fine for ranch work and carried a leather document case beneath his arm. Elias had met him once. Mercer accepted coffee, then explained that the school teacher in Dry Creek had taken ill and would not return for the spring term. "We need Miss Whitaker," he said. "The position is permanent, proper salary, a room in town." Anna sat across from him at the table. "When would I begin?" "As soon as the road is passable." Clara's pencil stopped moving. Mercer placed a contract beside Anna's hand. "You would have 23 pupils, perhaps more by autumn." It was the kind of opportunity a trained teacher rarely received in a territory where positions were often temporary and poorly paid. Elias understood that. Anna looked toward Clara, then at him. "I will consider it." Mercer smiled. "I'll expect your answer within the week." After he left, Clara disappeared upstairs. Anna found her packing the colored chalk into its paper box. "You still need those," Anna said. Clara pressed the lid closed. "You'll need them in town." "I have not decided." "You should go. 23 children need a teacher." Anna sat beside her on the bed. "And you?" Clara stared at the box. "I only need one." That night, Elias paid Anna the remainder of her wages. He placed the money in an envelope and left it beside her plate. Anna looked at it. The road is not open. It will be soon. Our agreement says payment at completion. You've completed it. Clara pushed her chair back and ran from the room. Anna waited until the upstairs door closed. Why are you doing this? You earned it. That is not what I asked. Elias stood near the stove with one hand on the iron door. Town position is good work. Yes. You should take it. Anna's expression remained calm, but her fingers tightened around the envelope. Do you want me to take it? It isn't my decision. No, it is not. She carried the envelope upstairs. For the next several days, the old silence returned. Lessons continued. Meals were prepared. Chores were completed. But the easy pauses vanished. Elias rode farther than necessary when checking fences. Anna kept to the school table. Clara made mistakes in words she had known for weeks. Then the thaw began in earnest. Water ran beneath the snow. The creek broke open with a sound like distant thunder. Mud appeared in dark patches along the road. Mercer sent a message. The stage would pass the Bell Ranch on Monday morning. Anna packed on Sunday. She folded her dresses into the square traveling case. Her books went back into the wooden box. She left the colored chalk on Clara's desk. Near sunset, Clara carried the box to the barn, where Elias was oiling a saddle. She forgot these, Clara said. She left them for you. I don't want them. Elias set down the cloth. Clara's eyes filled, though she refused to cry. You sent her away. I didn't. You paid her early. She has a position in town. She had a position here, for winter. Clara wiped her face with her sleeve. Mama left, because she died. Anna is leaving, because you won't ask her not to. The word struck harder than any accusation Elias had heard from a grown man. Clara placed the chalk box on the workbench and walked out. Elias remained in the barn until the lantern burned low. He had spent 3 years believing that love was a door best kept closed, once grief had passed through it. His wife, Sarah, had died after a sudden fever. By the time Elias reached Dry Creek for help, a storm had blocked the doctor's wagon. Sarah was gone before morning. Afterward, Elias removed every fragile thing from his life. He stopped visiting neighbors. He stopped making plans beyond the next season. He gave Clara food, shelter, and every hour of labor his body could provide. But Anna had shown him what the house still lacked. Not work, not order, warmth. On Monday morning, the sky was clear. The stage could be heard before it appeared, wheels cutting through mud along the valley road. Anna stood on the porch, wearing her brown coat. Her case rested beside her. The wooden box of books sat at her feet. Clara remained inside. Elias walked from the barn. Anna looked toward him. I left the lesson plans in the desk, she said. There are enough for several months. He stopped at the foot of the porch. You'll do well in town. I expect so. The stage came into view beyond the cottonwoods. Elias looked at the case, then at Anna. His hands felt useless at his sides. I was married 11 years, he said. Anna did not move. When Sarah died, I thought wanting anything again would be a kind of betrayal. The stage drew closer. Elias glanced toward the kitchen window. Clara stood behind the glass. I told myself you came for winter, he continued. I told myself that was all. Anna's voice was quiet. And now, Elias looked at her. Now spring is here. The driver pulled the horses to a stop near the gate. Elias stepped onto the porch. I don't know how to say this well. Say it plainly. He drew one slow breath. Stay. Anna's eyes searched his face. For Clara? For Clara. He paused. And for me. The driver shifted on his seat, waiting. Anna looked toward the road, then down at the wooden box. The school in town is a good position, she said. I know. I worked a long time to be offered a classroom of my own. I know that too. And I will not stay as someone you hired, because you are afraid to lose a teacher. Elias nodded. You won't. What would I stay as? He removed his hat. The wind moved through his hair. As family, if you can bear the patience that will take. Anna's eyes filled, but she smiled. It was not a grand smile. It was the kind that begins after a long winter, when the first patch of earth appears beneath melting snow. She turned toward the stage driver. I will not be traveling today. The driver tipped his hat, snapped the reins, and continued toward Dry Creek. Clara opened the front door. She stood very still. Anna picked up the box of books, but Clara ran forward and wrapped both arms around her waist. Anna held her close. Elias watched them from the porch. Then Anna reached one hand toward him. He took it. By late April, grass covered the south pasture. The creek ran bright beneath the cottonwoods. Calves moved beside their mothers, uncertain on their new legs. Clara studied each morning, with the kitchen window open to the warm air. Anna accepted the Dry Creek position, on one condition. She would teach 3 days each week in town, and hold lessons for ranch children at the Bell house on the remaining 2. Elias repaired the old wagon so he could drive her safely. By summer, children came from miles away. Their coats hung beside the door. Their voices filled the kitchen. Chalk dust covered the table. One evening, after the last family departed, Elias found Anna on the porch, watching Clara chase fireflies through the yard. He sat beside her. Neither spoke for a while. The mountains stood dark against the fading sky. Anna rested her hand on the porch boards between them. Elias placed his hand over it. Inside the house, the blackboard still held the final lesson of the day. At the bottom, beneath a row of carefully written words, Clara had drawn 3 figures standing beside a square house. Above them, she had written one word in blue chalk, home.